culture. I'm Ra. You are here. And welcome to the one, the only podcast, the greatest podcast that nobody knows about yet. Catch the Fade. We're live. Great Raw merch still coming soon. And if y'all will bear with me, we're going to load these up here. Okay. All right. We're live on the internet and ready to do this thing. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. I'd like to thank everybody that is tuned in anywhere in the world. You could be doing anything with your time, but you're listening to a bald guy on the internet. And as I say every single time, that means the world to me and everyone behind this channel. Thank y'all so much for taking time out of your day to be here. Shout out to all of my supporters out there, all of my fellow brother and sister channels that I mention every single time, with a special shout out to Clever's Multiverse and a big shout out to my main man, Tony the Toy Rat. Make sure that you were checking out all those channels, particularly those two that I just mentioned, because those are some good brothers that produce some amazing content on the internet. Good information, engaging, thought-provoking, and with the way things are today, we need as much positive, thought-provoking content as we can get, right? So, I want to say something, but I don't want to get sued for plagiarism. So, Cody Rose, if you're listening, I apologize. But what do you guys want to talk about? I think we need to discuss a couple of things right now. One of the things I want to talk about, I forgot my catchphrase. We got to get paid for these catchphrases, so I apologize. Let's talk about it then. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is some movie news. I was watching this article on YouTube where they were discussing Spider-Man Brand New Day. I saw that, and I can't tell you, I thought that was crazy. The video was talking about Marvel not caring. So it's from Emergency Awesome, which is a good channel, by the way, on YouTube. But they were mentioning Marvel not caring about all this leaked Spider-Man Brand New Day footage that's somehow getting on the internet, yet they come after people for other videos. Because what's being suggested is their logic is that because of the performance of their movies, Marvel would like to have as much buzz around this movie as possible because they feel like every movie should do $1 billion. Now, look, I I don't have anything against Marvel, okay, or DC or anybody like that. I'm a connoisseur of movie content, like all of you guys, right? So I don't wish anything ill on them, and I certainly hope that Marvel makes as much money off of their movies as they can. Same thing for DC, because if they're successful and they're making good movies, it's better for us as consumers. However, I I guess because they spend so much on these films, and this is what he was talking about, making they spend $200 to $300 million per film. So getting back $500 million to them is not a win. They want everything to cross the billion threshold, and I don't necessarily know in today's economic climate that that's really feasible. But I'm not an analyst. I don't, I can't say. But those the golden time for them, or their heyday rather, I think maybe has possibly passed. That's not saying that they don't make good movies. That's not saying people won't go watch them. I'm a fan, but I don't know, with all the content that they put out, through Disney Plus, as well as their movies. I'm not gonna say it was superhero fatigue because I think people won't go watch something that's generally good. But he made up a point that I think that's very relevant, and that point is that Marvel is not hitting the casual audience like they once did. Because in that billion some dollars when they were getting that wasn't just people like you or other members of the culture. I'm sure that are watching this that are hardcore fans that support these characters and read the comic books and like, well, you know what? I'm gonna go watch this because that's my guy or that's my girl. they got the casuals in there along with us who are considered the hardcore, and that's how it works. If you want to see a similar example, if you remember back when the Nintendo Wii launched, right? The reason that the Wii took over, if you go back and you look at that, especially when you consider the competition that the Wii was up against at that time, we were all kind of graphic crazy. We still are as a whole, but we were so crazy about graphics, how good the games look, and the power behind the console. We were just amped about it, right? And here comes this system, the Wii, and Nintendo, who never, to be honest with you, was outside of like the time with Donkey Kong Country when that hit. They were never at the forefront of anything that I would be considered cutting edge in terms of graphical fidelity. To me, they never were there. They would have a good system. It would look decent. The games would play good. The stores would be good. And that's what they were about. They weren't out here with these technical showpieces as far as their games, and they weren't putting out these machines that were overclocked with horsepower. That wasn't what Nintendo was famous for, right? So, but they had as a whole, they would be okay, but they were not. They weren't going to be number one since the days of like Super Nintendo and such. They weren't going to do that. But the reason that the Wii took over was because the Wii, with its simplistic controls and the way they made it, they set out when they made that console, they were looking for one specific audience, right? And that was the casuals. Because they knew they already had hardcore gamers. They had people that had been supporting them since the regular NES. There were Zelda fans, there were Pokemon fans, there were Donkey Kong Country fans. They already knew they had their fan base, but they said, how can we grow our fan base? How can we get more people that aren't hardcore fans to become Nintendo fans? So they introduced the Wii. And the reason that I bring that parallel up is if you think about it, that's the market that they captured. They had grandparents, they had parents, they had aunts and uncles, people that weren't really gamers, all of a sudden wanted to get into video games because of the Wii. So, regardless as to how they did it, the point in me saying that was they were aiming for a market other than what was already established as their established hardcore fan base. So, Marvel as a whole needs to do the same thing. And I think that's what they're trying to do now because they realize that even though they have movies that are actually reviewed well, as in the case of Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, they're reviewed well. They're saying the box office return is not to Marvel's expectations. I don't know, man. To me, the $500 million ain't bad. You spend 200 million and I made over 500 billion back. I mean, 500 million back. I don't see how I'm losing. Maybe I'm wrong. That's over twice what I spent to make it. I'm getting double back on the return, right? So I'm not struggling to break even. I'm making 600, million dollars. So if I spent 200 million, I make 600. I just did three times. But like I said, I'm not an analyst, but I guess they want 1 billion. Well, obviously, when you got something as hot as Deadpool and Wolverine, that's going to push through. So you're going to have those occasional ones that push through. But if you're trying nowadays in this climate to get more people, that's the key. You're going to have to get the people that aren't hardcore. You're going to have to get the people that maybe didn't read the comic books or weren't familiar with Phase 4 or 5 or stuff like that. You need people that have never done it that maybe just want to go see a superhero flick. The families that are out there, the casuals. That's what you're looking for. That untapped market. That's how you grow. So I know Marvel is probably trying to do that, and I wish them the best of luck with that because that is certainly the way to go. And where do we go with that? I know you're gonna say, what do you mean? So the reason I'm talking about that is because as it relates to their movies, that's one thing, right? I think Marvel needs to do that so that they can maybe get back or get closer to the numbers, whatever those numbers are they're aiming for, which I think is 1 billion, but I don't know that them aiming for every million to do $1 billion. I don't know if that's realistic. Hey, they say shoot for the moon, you'll at least grab the stars. So aim high, they say. That's what Air Force said, right? So I wish them the best of luck. I don't know that they'll get those numbers, but I know the capture in the casual market is a step in the right direction. So I think that's something that they need to do. But personally, they're making good movies. So as far as I'm concerned, hit your goals, but they're not. But they are turning things around because there was a period where they weren't making good stuff, and they had kind of ever since Endgame they would kind of hit miss. But I think that the last two movies, I do think they are a step in the right direction. I certainly think they are, and we'll see what happens from there. So, what else are we gonna talk about? Well, obviously, and certainly, I hope Spider-Man New Day, Brand New Day, does fantastic. Love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Think he'll do a great job. On to the next topic. This is something that I don't want to dwell on because if I can let you guys in on something, because I'm not the best at keeping secrets when it comes to content. I spoil stuff, and I really got to work on that. But I know that I'll go ahead and say that the plan is, I've been saying it, so cross your fingers. Uh, Finally, next week, here in the studio, we will have a special guest for the very next episode of Catch the Fade, which I think will be 12 because this should be episode 11. I pay somebody else to keep track of this stuff, not me. Somebody else's job is to keep track of this of the numbers. It's too much for me to keep up with. In any case, next week we should have a special guest because we've been talking about it for a while, and you're probably like, "Man, you say that, but no, things happen, life happens, it comes at you fast." But finally, it looks like it's coming together, and I may finally start getting those special guests here in the studio, and I look forward to that 100%. And we're going to be talking about some things we discussed before, and then some new stuff. But that ties into today. So what I want to talk about, my next thing that we're gonna discuss here, there is a big difference between action figures and collectibles, right? There's a big difference. I covered this in a video, rather I talked about it, but I feel like it bears repeating. There is a big difference between action figures and collectibles. And what do I mean by that? So you will find action figures on wherever the toys are in your Walmart or your Targets or wherever it is you have, wherever you are. The whole toy thing is dead, right? And I don't mean it that way. Toys are alive, right? But I want you to know I've never sat in a board meeting for Hasbro. I've never sat in a board meeting for Funko. I've never sat in a board meeting where NECA's been or Super 7 or anybody like that. However, I can tell you this as a consumer, none of those companies are going to tell you. I mean, well, Hasbro makes some, but they're not going to, in terms of their figures they put out, none of them are going to tell you that they make toys. None of them are. If they are, they're lying to you. They know full well with the price of everything nowadays, particularly these action figures that they're putting out, those are not priced for children. Because we're talking about if we're going to get something for a kid, kids can be rough and tough on stuff. Not every kid keeps things in pristine order. So, do you really think that the average parent is going out there and saying, looking around and saying, "Man, these gargoyle figures are really cool. They're almost $40 a pop, between 35 and $40. Let me get my kid three of them." No, it's not happening. No, 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 no. They count on the adults. So if you've ever been in a Target or a Walmart, I challenge you. I mean, most of the people I'm speaking to are members of the culture, so that's great. But in the event that I'm speaking to someone that's not in my core audience, that you're joining us for the first time, first, welcome. Second, if you go into a Walmart or a Target and you're down the aisles, where the toy aisles, you'll see kids. But when you get to the figures, when you start seeing the Jada Street Fighter figures, when you start seeing the WWE figures, when you start seeing the Funko Pops, when you start seeing the NECA section, McFarlane toys, when you go over there and look at those, or GameStops, you're not seeing kids. You're seeing adults. And those adults, 9 times out of 10, because it could be, the one off, but 9 times out of 10, those adults buying those collectibles for themselves in their collections. They are not buying them for kids. They're just not. And these companies know that. They're not stupid. Hasbro, says, "Hey, we got action figures." They don't say our toys. They got toys, but they market those toys to a very different group of people They're not marketing those action figures as toys. Marvel Legends are not, they're gonna put on the back, oh, ages 8 and up, 12 and up, do not eat this, stuff like that. But they know who's buying them. Their demographic is 35 and up. That's who's buying this stuff. It's not, it's us. It's members of the culture, it's adults. It's not kids, right? I mean, so what they started to do, and I've said this before in another video, is that they kind of moved away from the whole toy label, and they started saying, "Hey, these are action figures," which kids still play with, but they try to push them in the toy direction. So they've kind of made a distinction. Now, when it comes to action figures, they started labeling the stuff as collectibles, all of it, right? Because they know that it's not kids that are buying it, it is adults, it's us, it's you and me, we're buying it. So, where am I going with that? The difference between action figures and collectibles is when you look on this table, I'll show you. Maximum Hulk, awesome figure, right? Definitely not giving this to a kid. Think $60. Are you kidding me? No, right? So got him. He's a prime example. Game vs. Venom, $60. I'm not giving that to a kid. Are you kidding me? No. Now, as we move over here, I'm gonna try to move the camera so you can see, just in case. I present to you, and we got a video up on the channel. Make sure you check that out, where we reviewed these guys. These are two of the collectibles from Premium DNA Toys. That's the name of the company, Premium DNA Toys. But I want you to pay attention to what it says. It's got the cool little symbol, but it says Premium DNA. Premium, if you just pay attention and know what that word means, nothing premium is cheap. It's not meant to be. Premium itself is supposed to represent the best of something. This is the premium package. This is the premium this or premium that. It's not supposed to be what we would consider to be cheap, what we would consider to be affordable. It's premium. It's the top, right? So the name fits perfectly, but they make a collectible. Hot Toys makes some awesome figures too, but I think of them more on the collectible side. So, Ron, what's a collectible? A collectible is something that you wouldn't necessarily, now you're going to put it in a display and you're going to kind of leave it alone. I'll touch on it like I did in the review. These figures are massive, right? This figure, General Slaughter, 18 inches tall, weighs about 5 or 6 pounds at least. Big, heavy thing. General Vermin, 12 inches tall, weighs a good 3 pounds or so. When you put them in your hand, it's got some heft to them. They're not like a Marvel Legend. Like this, Hulk has some beef on him, right? And lifting him, but he's nowhere near as heavy as Vermin or obviously as Slaughter is, right? These are collectibles. So you're gonna, you might pose them a little bit here or there, but you're gonna leave them alone. They're gonna sit in a DTOF case or wherever you display them at in your collection. But you're gonna kind of set it and forget it, right? You're gonna leave them alone because what they're doing right now is what they're made to do, which is sit, look badass, intimidating, and look great on the shelf, displayed next to almost anything. You could put them with some other characters. Actually, if you really wanted to, you could put them with, and they're part of a line with the Battletoads and stuff like that. And the Battletoads are great, by the way. That might be before some of y'all's time, but Battletoads, just Google it. It's fun. But that's the actual IP that they're using with these guys is the Battletoads line, and that's where they come from, right? But they're collectibles. Marvel Legend, which would be an action figure. General Vermin, collectible. Action figure, collectible. All still under the envelope of collectibles, but really when we break it down at its lowest form, action figure, collectible. This you're gonna pose, you're gonna put next to other things. You can sit this in a detail show. It could go either way, but you can put this in some awesome poses, right? This guy is limited in what he can do. You can put him in some great poses. Does that mean he's not worth the money? No, absolutely not. That's not what that means at all. But you have to understand that when you're buying a premium thing, it went into the sculpt. You can feel this Hulk, what he's made of. I can feel that plastic. It's not like this thing right here. This is solid, heavy. big, beefy, jacked, cut, swole, shredded. You see a rat like that, man, you ain't calling the orchid or nobody else. You leaving the house. Okay, if you see something like that. You see General Slaughter, you're gonna change your pants and you're leaving the house. Point blank, period. I say that in jest, but in all seriousness, back to my point, there's a big, big difference because I was speaking to somebody about this and he was like, isn't it all the same? No, no, it's not all the same. I love this brown suit Wolverine by CT Toys. Awesome, right? I love him. I wouldn't get that to a kid either. And he's nowhere near as expensive as these guys, but I wouldn't do that either. So the big thing when we had this conversation, me and this person was, hey, there's a difference in collectibles and action figures. He was like, really? Isn't it all collectibles? I said, yeah, in one way of thinking about it, under one big banner, like it's a broad stroke of a brush to say, hey, these are all collectibles. Technically speaking, if you really want to be honest about it, and we're saying collectibles, everything within my line of sight right now is a collectible, and that you can see too is a collectible. We've got McFarlane toys, we've got Funko Pops, we've got NECA, we've got Super 7, we've got Marvel Legends, we've got everything in here, right? So it's all under that banner. Storm Collectibles, that's the name of them, Storm Collectibles, right? See my point? That's all there under that one broad umbrella. All still aiming for the adults, not aiming for kids. Um, but then within that under that umbrella, there's how people say there's levels to this. There's levels to it, right? So you go from regular action figures to collectibles that you're just gonna put on the shelf and leave alone. I had to break it down that way, and then the person understood because they're like, isn't it all the same? Well, yeah, it's under one brush, under one stroke, just the same way that people say, oh, I got a new car, and it realistically might be a hybrid or it might be a truck, even though it's still an automobile. It's the same thing. I get what they're saying, right? It's under one big broad brush. Under cars, there's different types of cars, right? You have sedans, you have sometimes you have and it depends on how you look at it. But cars may go under like your minis. You may have sedans, full size. You've got a bunch of different options, but they're all under cars. Bunch of different options under collectibles because there's levels. But it's under that one brush. So that's the best the best analogy I can give to you is that it's the same thing, yet it's different. Because I told them, I said, you're gonna let a kid play with something like this? I mean, you could, but I highly doubt it. Not if you want this. Now, if you want to get your money out of it, you're not going to let a kid play with that. That's not even made. Like a kid is going to want to move around and pose it and play with it. These aren't, they're heavy for one, so it could probably hurt a kid. And secondly, they're not, if the kid really, and you have nothing against kids that collect, because I've seen some kids that do have good collections, but they're going to want to pose and not made for that. And that's okay. That's all right. These guys, as I put in my review, are similar to Marvel Selects, which fall under the term of collectibles. And then you'll see them say action figures, but really, Marvel Select and the Juggernaut is a prime example. One of the best figures that deserves to be in everybody's collection, yet it is not what I would term to be an action figure. It's limited in its articulation. And articulation, for those that might be new that are watching this, how well it moves, right? The joints, hands, shoulders, abs, legs. That's what I mean by that, right? These figures aren't really highly articulated, and then they're not supposed to be. And that's my point. Those are another example of action figures that aren't action figures. They're really collectibles. And RIP to Dino Select. Anybody that's you know that work there, as I always say. I don't know what they're gonna do with that line. I hope Marvel figures that out because those are really good figures. That's I've said this before that Todd McFarlane should step in. He's already started. He's making statues anyway. He's made some really good comic recreation statues. If you haven't been paying attention between that Wolverine and that Incredible Hulk, where you can see the Hulk and Wolverine's blades, awesome. So he's already kind of doing it anyway. And he's stated in a video I watched that they had to be statues, so there's limits on how he can do it. They told him what he could and couldn't do. So if he did Marvel Selects, that would let him do a little bit more of articulation and that would be a win. So hopefully Todd McFarlane ends up taking Marvel Select. I mean, people think, oh, they'll close it down. They don't want to compete. Marvel is greedy. They want the money. And if Todd McFarlane can take what he's doing with his statues and work that magic over there, that's a win for everybody. For us to collect, for him that makes, and the community as a whole, we all win. So that's my spill on the whole collectibles thing, right? And support your local shops wherever you are, wherever you. I mean, I'm not saying don't go to Target and don't go to Walmart and things like that. Certainly do, and you can still order online, but support your local shops. If there's a local comic shop, support them. A local toy shop, support those folks, man. Those are the keepers of our culture and our history. Um, they're doing a valuable service, way more valuable than you realize. And those are some dinosaurs, and what people call dinosaurs. I don't think they are, but they're a valuable piece of our history that doesn't need to go extinct. I'll say that. We need those stores. We need those mom and pops because they've got history on their shelves and history in their minds, and they've probably been in the game for a long time. They're sources of knowledge and keepers of the culture, and those people are very important. So we need to keep them in business as long as we possibly can. They're treasures, every single one of them across the United States and across the globe. Support local shops, please. Now, what else are we talking about? This one's going to be a little hot. So bear with me here just a second. And shout out to my main man, Jorge Chibo. I know he's listening. I'm about to say his favorite word. I guess we gotta eventually, because I just saw another video on Instagram today where they were at it looks like Sam's Club, and these guys they were Pokemon guys, and they were scalpers, and they were grabbing like the literal. I don't know what that even thing they had them in. They were in boxes, but they were in these big gigantic trays. It clearly weren't meant for you to do this. This guy was trying to put the whole tray that probably had, I don't know, 20 cartons, boxes of Pokemon cards in there. People mad and started saying, "What are you doing, bro? It looks like they're getting ready to fight." And it's so stupid. I've said it, and I'm gonna continue to say this. This I will not get off my soapbox about. It's time out. It's time out for all this nonsense that people are doing out here. If you're, I get it. We all got to make money. The economy is tough. It's hard out here for a pimp. All of the above. But we got to chill out with this crazy behavior. This scalping is out of freaking control, man. Like if you're gonna make your money, but behave like an adult. Okay, everybody wants to make money. And I don't want to hear, "Oh, the early bird gets the worm." Stop it. Stop it. Let everybody get their chance to get a bite at the apple, man. Okay. We really need that's why we have limits to begin with. So I know people want to say, "Oh, well, blame the manufacturer for not making enough." They can never make enough for scalpers, ever, ever. And the scalpers just need to chill out. Make your money, man, but be an adult about it. Especially when you see kids there, you're not the only ones that are there to get something. You're there to make your money, but there might be a parent that spend their hard-earned money that promised this to a kid so that they can get these cards for that kid that kid that got A's in the report card or did something that the parent asked them to do and they promised them this reward, or maybe it's their birthday, or hell, whatever it is. Let's act like human beings and not be that doggone greedy and selfish to where we just say, well, it's all about me and I don't care about these kids and I don't care about nobody else on this planet other than me. We need to stop that. All right. You should be ashamed of yourself if you're one of the people out here that's been engaging in that behavior and an honest kid, because I feel like there's nothing more honest, no, more innocent in this world than a child, a real child. If you got a little 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 year old kid, or let's say an 8-year-old boy does well, does what his parents ask him to do, is a well-behaved child, and he wants to get a Pokemon card, and let's say he's out with his grandparents. Grandparents don't know, they're not into this. They just know the grandson wants it, and they want to get Pokemon cards, and there you are being a complete tool or a jackass trying to shove as many boxes as you can into a cart. And while you meanwhile sitting up here counting your money saying screw the world, you need to stop, man. That's ridiculous. Just stop. And I'm not, because I'm not saying that people that collect action figures or collectibles don't behave that way, but Generally, I don't, especially not lately. I don't recall seeing certainly nobody that I know that's in this hobby that collects behaves like that. They just don't. I mean, it's stupid. So all I'm saying is let's try to treat each other with respect and think about the next person. Please, can we be adults? Can we be reasonable and adults about stuff like this? Because all you do is make the hobby look bad. I'm not a Pokemon collector or a card collector, but when you act a jackass like that, they tend to put all of us in the same box and say, well, everybody that collects acts like those idiots. And we don't. We don't. Seriously. So can y'all please think about somebody besides yourself? Can you stop being an asshole? I was gonna say let me get off my soapbox, but I'll never get off my soapbox about that because I think that's absolutely ridiculous to grown men, and that's what I'm seeing. And it's grown ass men that are doing that. Like, stop it. Makes me sick. Really does. My stomach makes me just sick. Now, moving on from them to something else positive, right? Because we try to keep it positive here. I tell you, I'm late to the party every time. A while back, when the new, I think it's called the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, was on Disney Plus, debuted. I had so much going on at that time. I was trying to watch an episode of it, but you watch something, but you're not really watching something because you're doing something else. I didn't sit down and give it the attention that I probably should have. And as life happens, I just moved away and forgot all about it. Man, am I sorry that it took me so long because I just recently got into it to watching it. I am so ashamed of myself. I mean, I'm not, but in a way, yeah, I am. To say that the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man on Disney Plus was really awesome. I am so shocked. I'm hooked on that. That is a very good show. That is a cool reimagining. The animation is good. It has a fantastic cast. I think it's great. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. Um, I enjoyed Eyes of Wakanda. I'm not gonna spoil that either, but anyone that hadn't seen that, I've seen 4 episodes. I don't know how many they're gonna put out, but I've seen 4. Um, Eyes of Wakanda was good. Some episodes better than others, but as a whole, Eyes of Wakanda, particularly that first episode, chef's kiss. That is really, really some good stuff. And outside the box content, which I appreciate. Danielle Costa, I think that's her name, whoever did it. Fantastic. So keep up the good work there. This Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So it's basic. The theme is a mixture of the old school Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was before some people's time. Some people on my channel might know what I'm talking about, but it's from back in the day. Here comes the Spider-Man. Yeah, they remixed it with kind of a hip hop beat. Man, it's cool. Even the intro's dope. I'm enjoying those shows right now. I don't know if you all have seen them, but if you haven't, please watch Eyes of Wakanda and check out Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Those are two um, I don't know if I call them hidden gems. No, it seems like everybody, I mean, just about scoring Rotten Tomatoes in the case, especially of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, it scored real well. So clearly a lot of people know about it. But if you didn't, if you were late to the party like me, it's okay. Come on in and watch. It's definitely worth your time. If you get some time today, make sure you go check that out. It's fantastic. Please, please do that. I did see, speaking of animated, the Prey Killer of Killers. Awesome. Love that too. That was another good one. There's some good stuff out there on the animated front that's really, really good. So those are 3 shows I just gave you. Well, 2 of them are series, but one's a movie, an animated feature, and 2 are series. But if you find the time, check them out, folks. They are worth they're worth your investment. I mean, maybe you watch an episode, you don't like it, but both of them are worth the 30 minutes that you'll spend to watch per episode. They're not that long, but you get what I'm saying. Definitely check those out. That would really be good. And speaking, rounding back to fantastic, I've already talked about movies earlier, but I want to say this, and I want to be clear for the record. Number one, Brandon Pickens, if you are listening, Galactus is not a villain. He's a force of nature. So stop slandering my good man's name, okay? You try being 14 billion years old and see how life works out for you. Terrible. Um, I also, again, always want to publicly thank Matt Shackman for what he did for Galactus and Ralph Ineson for the portrayal that he gave as Galactus. Not gonna spoil Fantastic Four if you haven't seen it. You should probably see it. But Galactus was outstanding. I think that was a great casting choice. He killed it. He absolutely killed it, and I can't wait to see the sequel because I know that it has been greenlit. From what I read the other day, I am excited to see the next adventure of Marvel's uh, first family. Definitely, definitely, definitely. I get it. I'm a Galactus mark. I'm the first person to admit that. But even people that aren't fans of Galactus enjoyed his portrayal and thought it was great. So, go do yourself a favor, folks. If you haven't seen it, go on out there and watch that. Go watch Superman and see a couple of good movies and check out those things I just mentioned to you on Disney Plus. Without question, good stuff. I guess I could take what could I talk about to bring this home, right? Without spoiling. Because there's thoughts, I wrote down some stuff here, but everything will kind of spoil next week if I really, go too deep into it. And I don't want to do that. Even though I'm bad about spoiling stuff for y'all, I'm gonna try not to do that. Trying to say this in the best way possible. The least spoiler way. Um, for those of you that collect, and I've said this in a video before, November is going to be a really good month. Really, really, really good month. Well, depending on when I say good, good in terms of what's available, bad in terms of your wallet. But November is gonna be a killer. December is gonna be pretty good too. You got Christmas, but November is really the month where it's gonna hurt between everything that's coming out now. The whole Storm and Jada, you're not war, but they're both making Street Fighter, so they're definitely out there trying to outdo one another. I do know that. But with the competition between them, uh, this Gameverse thing that's going to be dropping all these exclusives that you got, the six packs that you guys saw as of the time of this recording. We've already got Thanos and Psylocke, and I think um, Omega Red and War Machines out, but we've got we've got, we've got, uh, I always want to say Shumagora, but I think they call it Gigantos or something like that. That's coming. Juggernaut. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot. If you're a collector, November will probably be your happiest month, but at the same time, you're going to cry because your wallet is going to beg for mercy. You're going to have to make some important decisions, some tough life decisions. Okay, because Hasbro and these companies don't care about what's going on. They care about the product. If they cared about us, they spread it out. They wouldn't put all this stuff out this year, but they are coming for us. And man, I always mention him. Todd McFarlane's still coming for us. He's got about a year or a little less left before the license that he has on the DC multiverse license goes over to Mattel, and Todd is getting every drop he can out of that license, and I don't blame him. But he's really cooking. I'm not saying he's hitting on all cylinders because there's been some mistakes here or there, but by and large, he's given us all the obscure characters that I don't know we would have gotten otherwise. Man, I don't know that we would have seen Kite Man or some of the ones that he's putting out right now. And then these variants for like San Diego Comic Con and reimaginings of like that red Superman for Kingdom Come. There's a lot that Todd McFarlane is doing right now. So Todd, go get your money. I'm not Todd Father. Go get your money. I'm not mad at you. If you're gonna go out, guns blazing. And whatever your secret way of not being done with DC, be that Page Punchers, which is also killing it, by the way. I think Page Punchers is very underrated. If you don't collect Page Punchers, but you collect DC, you should give Page Punchers a try. But that's from DC Direct. But however you're going to stay in the DC game, if it's through DC Direct or whatever, I wish you the best because overall, I've said this, and people are going to miss Todd McFarlane when he's gone. That man has pumped out a lot of figures. And I hope Mattel can, I wish them success. I hope they can keep up with the track record he's set of making figures available because nothing sucks worse than to have a license and you give me a figure once every 3 months. That's crazy. In a year, you put out 20 figures. Nobody has time for that. You know, if you're going to use the license, use the license. And I say that as somebody that has a lot of McFarlane stuff and doesn't want to start over, and none of us do, but we'll see what happens, right? Because if you already bought all these figures, you might get several versions of Wolverine. I'm using him as an example because he's been bastardized to death with how many different figures he's gotten. He's not the only one. I mean, Magneto, Cyclops, a lot of them are done. The X-Men as a whole are done that way. But I look forward to whatever it is Mattel gives us. I'll just wait with bated breath to see what happens. Right now they're getting us we're prepped for X-Men '97 season 2. Whenever that release date is, I don't know when it is, but I know that they're getting ready to release a whole new wave of X-Men '97 figures, including Cable and Jubilee and all these Sunspot, which sold out. So apparently people are interested and do want that, and Hasbro knows it. So they're dropping a lot of figures from November going forward. And I think Cable's in that Storm. There's a bunch. I mean, so like I said, November's a winning month for everybody. I mean, just get ready. Get ready to cry and cry tears of joy. That's the best way I can say it. Cry tears of joy and tears of mercy for your wallet. But it'll be an exciting, exciting time. So definitely get ready for that. And folks, please go in the comment section. Make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing, following, doing all those things. If you're a subscriber to our YouTube channel, thank you. If you're a subscriber to us, a follower on TikTok, thank you. A follower on Instagram, thank you. If you shared or interacted with our content in any way, thank you. We certainly appreciate that. Please, by all means, get in the comment section and hit the notification bell so you're aware every time we go live or put out some new content. Because I want you guys to be first to know as soon as that content's out, so you can get right to it. Because we're probably in about a week gonna ramp up a little bit, and you'll see a little bit more content from us. So that should be fantastic. But yeah, hit the notification bell. Make sure you're aware. Help us fight the battle against YouTube and all these other platforms algorithms, because they're not in our favor, but we're doing everything to change that. But we need your help to do that. So, folks, with that being said, I want to thank all of you that have joined me for Catch the Fade podcast for this episode of it. It has been fantastic. I like doing these. I look forward to it. It's not just about the shorts or just our regular long form videos. This podcast is very important to us, and we only hope and pray that it will continue to get better. And I think next week will be a step in the right direction without spoiling anything. It'll be a step in the right direction. So, folks, as I always say, until we meet again, please continue to stay collecting responsibly like adults. None of that fighting and all that nonsense, and no scalping. Please continue to stay collected. Please continue to stay tuned. You've got every platform under the sun: Instagram, Snapchat, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok. So you should be able to find us. So please continue to stay tuned. And of course, this podcast, the greatest podcast nobody knows about yet, every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please continue to stay tuned. And above all, in various ways, however you choose to do it, please, ladies and gentlemen, continue to stay great. We truly appreciate you. I cannot say thank you enough for everything that you guys do. Please make sure you stay on the channel because we got some more videos coming. So make sure you check today. There's at least one more that's dropping. Until we meet again, folks, please, everybody on the sound of my voice, may you be blessed and continue to stay great. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all on the next one.